Hey everyone, welcome back. Now this is a bit late, this video, but it's something I want to cover, and that's what's new with 8.2 of vRealize. Now I don't cover everything that's in the release. Obviously there's a ton of bug fixes, there's obviously a ton of improvements and efficiencies made in the back end. I just cover what I think the biggest changes within the upgrade, and also ones that I generally get hit up a lot about in questions in general. Now there's obviously a really big one, and that is the Terraform integration, which I've had a lot of questions about. Now vRealize always had a Terraform provider allowing you to drive vRealize through Terraform if that's what you wanted to do. But this is actual integration. So this is taking your Terraform files, or collection of whatever you want, deployments, doesn't really matter because all the providers are supported, all the Terraform versions are supported, and it allows you to wrap governance and control around them. So it allows you to take what is traditionally a single person kicking off a Terraform file and do a deployment, to be able to have that wrapped up as a catalog item for self-service consumption, but also then start driving day two actions around that. And really what it does is takes the free and available Terraform open source, which everyone uses, or most people use anyway, and then wrapping that enterprise bubble around it. In a lot of ways competing somewhat to Terraform Enterprise, but this is something that the two products should be used together. I never think of it as you either use one or the other, because vRealize, what it does is it brings governance, it brings guardrails, it brings all the costings, policies, approvals, all the rest of it for everything you want to do, from creating virtual machines to creating containers to namespaces to public cloud services, and now to Terraform. But also what it doesn't do is it doesn't create your VPCs and your networks unless you've already got it. Takes pre-existing ones of those, right? So you've got to have a VPC that's created. I can then create on-demand networks and stuff in there, but then if you've got specific static networks or other configuration items, that's where the magic of Terraform comes in, is it allows you to set up your base configuration, especially in public cloud, and then vRealize can take over. So what you can then do is obviously use the two in conjunction, and you can start driving some pretty cool stuff. So what I'll just have a look here. Let's dive into that one first, and then we'll cover some of the other cool stuff that came out in 8.2. So to have Kubernetes, to have Terraform on-premise, you need to configure Kubernetes for it. So you can see here, I've got my TKG cluster, which is in my lab, obviously part of vSphere 7. We can start deploying all the WCP and the TKG stuff. Really, really awesome. So I'm running on that, and it uses Kubernetes to then drive Terraform. If you're using vRealize Cloud, then that's all done for you. You don't have this step within there. And then obviously we've got our Terraform versions, and you can obviously add additional versions if that's what you want to do. Then you can go to your integrations, and we can add our Terraform. So you can see that I'm doing a managed Kubernetes cluster. So this is one of my this is managed out of vRealize, and if we actually go to as I said, the Kubernetes, we've got it here, so it's a managed one. Or you can have an unmanaged, and you just supply it the external kubeconfig. I choose the cluster, the namespace, and the image that I want to run, validate it, it's all good, right? So that's what we've got. That's the initial setup that we need. But then you need to supply your Terraform files. It supports the whole lot, so obviously your main file, as well as your variables and your secrets and stuff, if that's what you want to do. But that's all kept in your source repository. And if we have a look at my projects here, we look at Project Z, which is my main one. We look at the integrations, and that's no good. But we can see here we've got Terraform configurations, and I've got my cloud templates there. And this means there's now 3 options instead of just cloud templates and ABS. We can have Terraform configurations of files as well, right? So that's all working. That's in there. That's great. Now all that's left to do is what I'm going to do is because all the providers, everything's done. So anything you can do with Terraform, you can now put into a blueprint and offer it up as a catalog if that's what you want to do. Wrap a whole bunch of governance and approvals and all sorts of other things around it. What I'm going to do, a little bit of inception, I'm actually just going to have something that I was playing with a fair while ago with the vRealize provider. So I'm actually creating a Terraform blueprint to create a vRealize blueprint. A little bit of inception, I thought it was a bit funny, so let's go ahead and do it. Obviously completely useless in the real world, but you know, don't let that get in the way of it. So we look at here, we go new cloud template. So that's probably something new since 8.2 is there's no longer blueprints, they're called cloud templates because you know we can't have enough cloud, right? So cloud templates, I'm still going to refer to them as blueprints. Just because it's hardwired in my brain. I think blueprints makes more sense than cloud templates, but assuming, you know, I guess because these templates can go to any cloud, so they are very much a cloud template, and I get that, but if I say blueprint, I mean cloud template. If I say cloud template, I mean cloud template. So, you know, not confusing at all. We can then choose, now you can see upload, I can go Terraform, and I'm going to call this Inception. And if you choose a project that isn't configured or doesn't have their Terraform configuration files repository connected, it's going to actually tell you there's no Git integration sources for this or something along those lines. So for me, I'll go this, next, select the repository. So obviously that's my repository. Go to commit, so we've got multiple commits, so I'll take the latest one, and source directory, so it's under a blueprint source directory. And now what it's going to do is it's going to provide all the inputs and everything that I need. So we can see I've got a vRealize provider, so it's actually saying these are the providers that it's using, and then it shows me the variables that I need. So I could change this and whatever, I'm just using it. Literally, this is how I use it in Terraform. I haven't changed a single thing, and now I'm just pushing it straight into vRealize, and I'll choose that because the refresh token is sensitive, and I'll create. Alright, so there it is. We can say it's created all the inputs and everything for us, which is really cool. Now let's give this a run. I guess we can... I haven't tested this at all, so we'll deploy this, we'll go current draft is fine. Okay, inputs. Put the refresh token in there. URL is itself, so I'm assuming that's it. It's been a while since I used it. Insecure. Project name. Project Z. I think that's what it is, and blueprint name, we'll call this I'm sure I've got something there wrong. I think the project name is incorrect. I think it's space, but let's see what it does. So we can so it's doing the plan. You can actually see it running, which is really, really cool. Yeah, okay, whatever. Alright, cool. No approval required, as it shouldn't be, because I haven't got any in place yet. Let's have a look. Actually, what I will do while I just wait is Project C. No, that should work, hopefully. Oh, there it is. There's my Terraform blueprint. See if this is hasn't finished yet. What's it doing? Oh, it's finished now. Just needs a refresh. There we go. Cool. So there you can see there's my Terraform. Obviously, if you've got different thing provisioned, they'll all come in under here. We can see that this is a type vRealize blueprint, vRealize provider. Obviously, resource name's this. Very, very cool stuff, right? So, configuration source, yep. So it's providers, variables, refresh tokens hidden. All right, cool. Now let's have a look. Here's the blueprint that it has created, and there we go. So it's a very simple blueprint, but it's just shows you that it just works, right? So very cool stuff. So I had a blueprint Terraform to create a vRealize blueprint on the same project. Very useless, but still very cool. Now, awesome. So that works. Obviously that's the Terraform stuff out of the way. Obviously, you can have a lot more complexity within there and within the deployments. Obviously, we can refresh state, we can get state within it, but then you just treat it like any other, right? So very cool. So there's the Terraform integration. Now another one is the multi-tenancy. So obviously multi-tenancy was introduced in 8.1, but what it's now allowed is support for centralized management of resourcing, right? So if we have a look here, we've now got a new thing called virtual private zones. So very similar in the way VCD, I'm sure, if those are familiar with that, works. But the way this works is you set up a VPC, you tell it which, where you want, any capability tags, you allow it to go compute, or I can manually, or you can dynamically include based on tags. Now that's very cool. So as you add additional clusters or compute capability and you tag it correctly, the virtual private zone will increase or scale back however you want to work. So awesome. We've got flavors. You create all the flavors, you create the images, you assign the storage, and you assign the networks and the policies and the load balancers and that sort of thing. Then you can take that virtual private zone and you can assign it to a tenant organization, and then the tenant admin can then use that, dish that out, assign it to a project, those sort of things, right? So essentially it's been able to bundle up a whole bunch of your typical resources and gift them out. So it works. This will work more in that if you're a provider, if you provide tenants or compute capability, or you're a small cloud provider, or even organizations that want areas like maybe you've got your development area, maybe you've got your infrastructure area, your network area, whatever it might be, being able to have them as different tenants, and they can basically self-manage, but you're just assigning the resources that they can use in nice little groups, right? So that's pretty much the end of that one. I can see this being pretty useful, and I'll be interested to see how well it goes. Now the roles, custom roles. Now this is something I've been wanting for a long time, right? And custom roles is just as it thinks, right? You create a new role and you tell it what they can and can't do. So previously all we had was user and administrator, right, of a project, and even within the not just in a project but in general, in admin sense, is this allows us now to actually say what people can and can't do. We can create our own roles and have it more granular, a lot more, in line with RBAC, right? And look, this is going to be great, and I think it's going to be very, very useful indeed. Now, the other one is, I think it's pretty cool, and this is the what is it? The first class disk. So if we go to our storage profiles and I just look over here and I just take this vSAN one, I've got this option now. So first class disk. So what this is I think it's only available for vSphere 6.5 upgrade 2 or later. And I think it's like, I think in vCenter it's called Improved Virtual Disk or something. But this is essentially allows you to manage storage independently of virtual machines. So think Amazon EBS, right? So this is very much taking and allowing you to do EBS style functions in your own data center. So, you know, there is some limitations. Now, I don't know all the limitations off the top of my head. I think if you've got a snapshot, they can't be deleted. If you've got first class disks, they can't be they can't be used in storage DRS or something. There's a bunch of limitations there, but at the end of the day, it just allows you to expand the disks, attach the disks, unattach the disks, delete the disks, create the disks, all without having a VM associated with it at all, right? So this is how you could definitely have, you know, persistent storage for very much that immutable infrastructure. It was VMs. You could detach the disk, delete the machines, redeploy, attach the disk again, and you've got all your data there, right? So you can start being very smart when it comes to your deployments within your on-premise situation there. Now another one I think is really good because it's going to cut down on the amount of action-based extensibility sprawl, is that when you create actions now, so I'll just choose any one of these, let's just choose that one, we can see if we have in the settings, we've got share all projects in this organization. So this is very good from a central management or a core capability team that's just creating stuff that every team wants to be able to use, you know, and that might be create CI and CMDB, do this. You don't need to have an action per project anymore. Is you can actually create a common set of actions, share them amongst all the projects, and they can then, you know, use them as they wish, which I think is very, very good. It's going to cut down on the duplication aspects of it. So I think there's been a lot of stuff now. I don't know if it's too important, but it's around the NSX. So with NSX is one thing that was a really big limitation before. If we have a look here, I'll go to scan, is the associations. It could only be associated to one vCenter, but as we know, NSXT can be associated with many vCenters, so that's been fixed. So I wouldn't say this is a feature that probably should have been there to begin with, but you know, it's now there, so it's good. And it's also, what it's allowed to do is, if you, with your NSX networks, is within a blueprint, you've got a lot more control, especially if you're doing NAT. You can start doing all your port forward rules and configurations within your blueprint as code, right? So you're getting a lot more fine-grained, you know, self-service to that network capabilities, but it also allows them to change at day 2 as well. So you got a lot more, and same with the load balancers. It's got more day 2 actions with the load balancers. So just giving, you know, more control to the person who's doing the provisioning, and less phone calls and tickets being raised in the system for admins to have to deal with, right? As long as all the approvals in the way. And that gets me on to the next bit, is approvals. So approvals have been, I'll just sign in here again, it's obviously expired, have been improved. So they're basically available for any config item in a blueprint can pretty much have, you know, if you've got it on there, you need an approval now, where before it was sort of limited. So let's have a look at the service broker. Yep, so content policy, so non-enforcement, new policy. So a lot more deployment criteria in here now. So you can have resources, enter a value, you know, I can have a resource type, I can have flavors, regions, and you add in all the resource types within there, so there's obviously a lot more than that. So you can go on down. And that includes VRO workflows, ABXs, a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So we can see we can now have approvals for pretty much everything, which is really, really good, and a better way to add it in here. This looks a lot nicer than it did before, which is good. So that's, approvals. I think this is good now because we can have approvals on pretty much everything, which it should, which is really, really awesome. Is there anything else? Yes, one more thing. So it is under here, infrastructure, integrations, and it is Bitbucket support. So Bitbucket, something everyone's been asking for, so that's now supported, both the cloud and on-prem version. Really, really great. I've just done a DevOps proof of concept here at a customer recently, and they had the full Atlassian stack, and it was really good to have this in here. So you got Bitbucket support, so you can have all your blueprints and your Terraform files and everything else all in the Bitbucket, which is great. Now you might also notice we've got SDDC Manager and VCF in here as well. So what's great about this is really tying together the VMware platform as a whole, and that is the when you're deploying, automatically deploying infrastructure, like your clusters, workload domains, whatever it might be, vRealize knows about them. Which then allows the cloud accounts to be added, the virtual zones, and there's just a lot more synergy. So instead of an IT operator deploying a workload domain and we'll just say the cloud admin or the vRealize admin knows nothing about it, well, that's not the case anymore, right? There's more synergy there. It actually knows about it, and it's very, very cool. So it just adds that bit of integration that wasn't really there, especially from the infrastructure point of view. But other than that, look, there was obviously a lot of improvements just in general, but to me, they were the top improvements. Especially the Terraform integration, especially the disk. I know the disk one sounds weird to be important, but I think being able to manage disks independently is going to be able to do some really, really cool stuff there, right? And funny enough, Bitbucket, only because it was a constant thought in my sign, because so many people use the Atlassian suite as well, and that's really it. So, hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned. I've got a lot more stuff coming up. Take care, and I'll see you next time. See you, bye.